Well, let's talk about sage. Here's a sage leaf from our garden. I love the delicate wrinkly pattern on the leaf. It shows its holding quality. They do say of sage that if it's growing strong in the garden, then the woman is in charge of the house. You might like to know that. It's a favourite offering of the ancient Greeks to the gods. You'd burn it on the altar and it would go up and please the gods, bring them down with a smile on their face to help you. Julian Barker says it's an adaptogen. I think that's fine because it does act on the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, which makes it, well, it's not a native, but our only generally grown adaptogen here. When you've tasted it, I hope anyway, you felt the way it draws into the centre, it draws the vitality, the vital heat, the energy of life into the centre of the body, holds it there. It's very good for scattered states. I use it a lot for after infections, when everything's been scattered and everything needs to be brought back to the centre again. But also, of course, for hot flushes, which is a scattered state, whether they be due to the menopause or whether they be due to fevers, ongoing low-grade viral infections, works very well for both. Cold tea, of course, is the best, especially if there's a lot of heat involved. If the woman is really, really hot, in excess thyroid conditions or just very choleric women, then we need to add some cooling herbs like motherwort, lemon balm, even plantain. I've done that and that works very well. I've also used it 3 times, or 4 times actually, for prolactin secreting tumours. The pituitary gland. Use the tincture equal parts sage and thuya and then back that up with a couple of cups of sage tea to really get the sage in there, just to bring the prolactin levels down. Works very, very well. Excuse me. Works very, very well. I had 3 women there out of the 4. 3 women got pregnant, which is the main reason, of course, why women came to see me with prolactin secreting tumours. And one woman actually had 2 babies each time with the sage doing it and bringing the prolactin down again. It's a reasonable strategy. The orthodox strategy for prolactin secreting tumours is to give the drug for a couple of years and cross your fingers, because very often the whole thing will just go away and you don't have to do the operation, which is very tricky. So doing the same thing with the sage and the thuya is a reasonable strategy. Just measure prolactin levels and see how you're going and seeing if you're having success. We also use it for cystic breasts, painful lumpy breasts before the period. I had a lady a few years ago who had very, very painful lumpy breasts before her periods, and it cleared up really nicely with sage, and then she moved away and rang me up and said she had got pregnant, and I thought, well, she shouldn't be using sage. And it doesn't really matter, because when you're pregnant everything changes, and hopefully her cystic breasts would go away, but they didn't. Her breasts were still really, really painful through the pregnancy. So in the end, because she'd actually got pregnant using the sage, I thought, well, why not use the sage? And she did, and she was happy, and she had a baby. She called it Morgana, which I think might be a bit of a mistake, but who knows, we will see. Sage by itself can be too dry, and that's its main drawback, I think. But then you can always balance that by adding a bit of mallow. I find when I'm taking sage, say for an infection, or to get rid of the after effects of infection, there's only so long I can take it for. After the end, your whole body becomes saturated with sage, so you know, your body knows when to take sage and when not to take sage and how much sage to go on taking. Also, of course, it is absolutely brilliant for terminations and abortions. It dries up the milk, it gets the hormones back quickly to where they should be. It's very antiseptic, so it deals with any possible infections. And traditionally, of course, and it does work, it helps you deal with grief. Grief, of course, is a natural process, but sometimes you need a bit of help in dealing with it. And that's sage, I think, for now. Thank you. Right, here we are. I'm sorry I missed you. I missed seeing you all. I missed Whiston. It's definitely one of the highlights of my year. Another time. Let's talk about Ladies' Mental. Here's a lady's mantle leaf I picked from my garden. It's even got, courtesy of the weather, raindrops on it, not dew, but raindrops. And of course not that magical water that the lady's mantle secretes all by itself, even on a hot, dry day. This is mollis, Alchemilla mollis, which is the commonest lady's mantle in people's gardens here, widely grown as undercover in parks and gardens. It's a Turkish species. Doesn't make any difference. Any species can be used. Mollis is just a little bit softer and furrier, that's all, but the properties are the same. I love the way, let's have a look, closer look, I love the way the edge is cut, crimped very, very, very carefully. And then a silver, delicate silver line marked around. And of course the whole thing pleated. I do think the lady's mantle fairies must be a bit obsessive compulsive to go to all that bother. The flowers are very simple, but then if you're obsessive compulsive, I think simple is better. You can make it tidier and neater. Right, lady's mantle stories. My favourite lady's mantle story. Some years ago when I was just starting out as a herbalist, the lady in the sweet shop, not that I ever go into the sweet shop of course, called me over and said, "I hear you're a herbalist. Do you have anything for heavy periods?" I thought to myself, well, it's a good way to get the punters in, give them some herbal tea, tell them if it doesn't work as well as you should do, then you've got to come and make an appointment to see me. Gave her a big bag of lady's mantle and waited and saw. A couple of months later, she called me round from behind a lamppost in the street. She was Indian, a bit shy, and said, "Could that herbal stop my periods completely?" And being a new herbalist, I had a panic. I thought, what have I done? What have I done? And I asked the question you should always ask in those situations, could you be pregnant? And she said, I couldn't possibly be pregnant. My husband and I have been trying for 8 years. But she was. Unfortunately, the reason for the heavy bleeding was a fibroid, and the baby sat on the fibroid during the whole pregnancy, and the fibroid sat on her nerve, so she was in considerable pain. But then she had the baby and forgot all about that. And I got invited to the christening. That was nice. I've used lady's mantle a lot for women who can't get pregnant when there's no particular reason, no obvious reason. I've used it a lot for women who wanted to have their babies close together, so you give them the lady's mantle straight after the other one, and that's worked. I even used it once for a young athlete who didn't want to have a period on a day of a big meeting, and the period was due then, and I said, you take the lady's mantle now, it's about a month, and then you won't have a period, and she didn't. But I suppose that's psychosomatic. It's not the right word, is it? Placebo effect, that's a good word. Everyone that takes lady's mantle remarks on how kind and gentle it is, how happy it makes them feel. Even my more mad patients, I was treating a slightly mad patient recently, trying to get her period synchronized with the moon. She's into astrology and all that sort of thing. And the mugwort hadn't worked, which is my basic strategy. So I thought, well, we'll try the lady's mantle. It didn't work at all. But she said, when I said, oh, it hasn't worked, we'll try something, I said, no, I'd like to keep on with the lady's mantle because it makes me feel really, really good. Lady's mantle is my mainstay for fibroids and endometriosis and pelvic congestion combined with yarrow. That combination, I must use tons of that tea, lady's mantle and yarrow. And for inflammatory conditions like endometriosis, then we'll use marigold as well. And don't forget, if you're treating endometriosis and inflammation in the pelvis, don't forget the castor oil packs. It's a lot of bother, but it's definitely worth it. The marigold, of course, is for tidying up, clearing the lymph, calming down the inflammation. What else? Oh yes, lady's mantle is also invaluable for erratic bleeding at menopause. You know, when women will have no periods for a while and then it'll flood. That will deal with that situation quite easily. The French say that lady's mantle is progesteronic, and you can, in some cases, use it instead of Vitex for premenstrual tension. But mostly it's used for toning the womb, and I think that any hormonal effect must be secondary to the effect on the womb. It affects the tissue, it's a tissue herb. And if you affect the tissues, then you affect the feedback to the endocrine system. I think that's what happens. What else about ladies' mantle? Oh yes. I had a patient a few years ago. A lady worked in the city, banker. She was suffering from stress, which is sort of obvious, and irritable bowel, and I got those better. But she still wanted to come and see me, and she kept making up little reasons to come and see me. And in the end, I just kept making up little things for her to do. And one of the things I got for her to do, because she's a little bit spotty, was to take the dew from the ladies' mantle. So you've got to get up at dawn. And she said, well, there's a park across from me, and there's ladies' mantle growing there. I'll gather the dew at dawn from there, and then wash your face in it every day for the month of May. And she did it, and it worked really well. Toning the skin, toning the spots, toning the breasts after having babies to get the breasts back into tone. A little spray that works, just tea in the spray that works well. Just a magic herb, really. My general theory about why it didn't work for the alchemists is because they sent their apprentices out to gather the drops that the ladies' mantle secretes so that they could use water in their distillation process, which hadn't come from the earth or the air. And the apprentices got a bit lazy and took a bit of dew and a bit of rainwater. And so that's why alchemists never ever managed to change lead into gold, or I suppose if they had done, they wouldn't be telling us about it, would they? Okay, thank you. Have fun.